Hello everyone, welcome back to another how to build video. This is how to build Festival Zeldris. Zeldris only had one festival and he has 4 copies, 2 blue, 1 red, and the only green one is a festival unit. I thought I'd do a how to build for him because he is still decently useful today, especially if you do not have, for example, Nanashi's Relic. You may want to use him for the Unknown team for stat boost because Unknown has a lot of debuffs. Anyway, onto his stats. He has very, very low crit chance, but that isn't really that big of a problem. He's got decent lifesteal, bad crit resistance, very good crit defense though. That's kind of a surprise. Decent resistance and your average pierce rate for a older character. The reason him having really low crit chance is not really a problem is that he can only really crit on his ultimate. And not only that, but his ultimate lowers HP and has a decently high multiplier. Meaning if he is 6'6", you know, you're lowering enemies' HP by 40% and then probably going to one-shot them with the multiplier, how high it is. The only problem with that now is how the meta is so lower stat immunity, which is kind of irritating for most teams. So for his cards, he has a Cleave card, which is the exact same as Cusack's, just I think it's identical. It's very strong, especially at level 3 can hit so hard. It's a very good multiplier. This is the same effect that Traitor Melee has on his ultimate as well. And also, he has a card that I think he was the first one to be introduced with a card like this. But this is the same as Ragnarok Bonds. Block ult gauge, block ultimate and then remove ult gauge dissolve, which is kind of cool. Removes 2 ult gauge at level 2, 2 ult gauge and 2 turns block for level 3, which is pretty good. Decent utility character. His commandment, I don't actually like his commandment, mainly because it lowers your crit chance and your crit damage, and if you're versing a Mael or the Ultimate One, you're not really going to be lowering their stats at all, if not much, because the Escanor is the one you can lower, and you can only lower his added stats. You can't lower anything. You can't lower his base stats, which is kind of irritating. You can only lower his increased stats from buffs. And pretty much is, if your teammate crits or the enemy crits, they lose 10% crit chance, 10% crit damage, and can only stack up to 3 times, which means they lose 30% crit chance, 30% crit damage. The crit chance lowered by 30%, even if it's like a big character, is huge. 30% is like insane. If you were to give like a character, for example, like Rough Talia, 30% extra crit chance, she would be a beast because that means that Flood card could actually crit. And if you were to lower Traitor Melee, Purgatory Melee or Mael's crit chance by 30%, you're looking at a lot. Melee, even with the 50% attack related stats and having, Blue Zell in the back, struggles to crit. Mine struggles to crit with the boost. I know, of course, it's free to play, but I have 3 weapons. 3 weapons and he still struggles to crit with 50% increased attack related stats. It's insane. Onto his passive, this is where he shines. His passive did actually get buffed, so his passive was, I believe, 2% up to 10 times, and they changed it because it was only 20%, then they buffed it to 3% over 8 times, which means you've got 24% basic stats, which is actually very useful, especially if you're in an unknown team and you don't have Nanashi's Relic. Of course, if you have Nanashi's Relic, pick that because it's so much better. But, being able to do this as well as him giving with his Relic, decreasing their attack related stats when they attack by 10%, which is very cool. Obviously, it's not an actual debuff that appears. You have to have the debuff for it to work, and it just happens behind the scenes. It lowers their stats before they attack, which is kind of cool. It also works everywhere as well. The stats, we'll get to the stats later on, but it's not actually too bad. Also, going to the ultimate, mine's only 1/6, but at 6/6, decent multiplier. Okay, I thought it was 40%, it's 25%. Still not too bad, and it lasts for 3 turns, and it's HP related stats. That's the key word in this ultimate, is the related stats, because related stats is very good. That's like lowering lifesteal, which is a big thing in PvP. Having lots of lifesteal means you can recover from a large attack very quickly. That's why characters like Mael and Purgatory Melee can heal so much after taking so much damage, where you pretty much have to kill them in 1 turn, because if not, they just heal back to full, especially when Melee gets his attack buff, and Mael can't have his stats lowered, so he ends up murking the entire team anyway. On to gear now. So when it comes to gear, of course, this isn't the gear I'd actually run for him. I do I have a set for Zeldris? I do have a HP defense set for Zeldris. This is the set I would actually run, HP defense, because he's now a support character. He was probably at one point a semi-DPS. What I mean by that, I mean, if he comes down, he can still do a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong. If he just magically appears out the sky after someone on your team's died, he can still do a decent amount of damage because of the cleave. but he is not going to be like, he's not going to be able to wipe an entire team because he's not that good, unfortunately. But HTB defense is probably the way to go for CC at this point, because mainly in PvP now, if you go second and you're not running dodge food, you're probably dead. If you are running CC food and you want to go first, you know, HP gear is probably the best way to go, even if you are running a DPS, because some DPSs, for example Rimuru, they don't need to crit to deal a lot of damage, even though they have a lot of crit chance, because of their effective Pierce, for example, Rimuru. I'm using Rimuru as an example because he does a lot of damage and doesn't actually need to crit to do a lot of damage with HP defense. When it comes to outfits, I only got the Hawk Pass one, which dropped with him. I don't have the Hawk Pass weapon, but I also have the Hawk Pass headgear as well. When it comes to the Relic, you got 300% attack, which is actually very decent. 300% defense are also very good, and then the HP is on the lower side, but it's still not the worst, because it gets a lot of attack and a lot of defense, which gives you quite a bit of CC. I think the only reason I actually bought this 5th headgear was because it was part of the chef set, and it was his 5th headgear. There was no other free headgears, so I thought, screw it, why not? Weapons-wise, you get this one from his affinity, so I thought, I'm not going to buy the weapon, and I bought the outfit just for the cut-in, because that's what I do pretty much. I buy outfits for cut-ins, not for what they actually do. But, you know, you can get a decent amount of crit resistance and crit defense. That 5% resistance would actually be pretty good. But yeah, if you could get his crit defense even higher, when he gets crit, he probably wouldn't take as much damage, because that's a decent amount of crit defense. 102%, right? Let's look at Mael. So you're looking at 102% crit defense. He only has 3% lower than Mael, who is the latest festival character. He's only got 3% less, which is insane. Having only 3% less crit defense than the latest festival is actually insane. Especially for a character this old. He came out in 2021, so he'll be 2 years old this year. He did drop with, I believe it was JP Anniversary. It was a JP Anniversary. First one was Goddessless, second one was Zeldris, third one was last year, so it was Bloody Ellie again. And this year, my hypothesis is that it'll be another Zeldris, and probably Demon King Zeldris, just to fit the theme. But, you know, he's overall a decent character. Would I recommend, you know, spending festival coins to get him? Possibly. He's not the worst festival you could pick from. The worst one you could probably pick from is Cusack, because he now has no use. Yes, you could say because of all the added HP he would do better, but the team he is on requires a lot of AoEs. For example, Festival Esterosa wants Darkness stacks. You can't get Darkness stacks if you're constantly having to use single target cards. That's the reason the current team is pretty good, whether you're using Chandler or you're using Purgatory Melee. Chandler is very good because of the fact that he can counter back and inflict Darkness, as well as being able to apply the Disable debuff. That's also very good as well. And with that, in the back, you could then run the other Cusack, which is much better than the current, the festival one that was released quite a while ago. And to be honest, that festival one was only really released to counter with Barn, and at the time they actually released 2 festivals to counter Barn, which was kind of funny. But this still isn't the worst. If you don't have Nanashi's Relic and you don't think you can get Nanashi's Relic, this Zeldris is actually very good. Because, you know, it's basic stats for an unknown team, it gives more than Ram, but the only unfortunate thing is that you do require to have to inflict all these debuffs first before then you get all the basic stats, where Ram is just straight 20% and Nashi straight 30%. So you do have to measure those things up. But anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.